Live. The bases dropped on a Monday morning here in Atlanta, Georgia, August 12th. It's an overreaction Monday. Atlanta United won 2-1 over NYCFC at the Benz. One reaction that was a surprising one was Joseph Martinez in the starting lineup. He gets 2 goals for Atlanta to lead them to victory. Lots of stars out of this one. Pity Martinez was excellent. Julian Gressel was our man of the match on radio. So many different strong performances in it. It was a good match overall. NYC came out to play. Some of the comments from Dome Tarrant afterwards, really interesting, and I think give you a glimpse of how some managers look at the challenge of coming into Mercedes-Benz Stadium and facing Atlanta United. If you want to be part of the conversation, tweet at us at Soccer Down Here. Give us your reactions. There can be overreactions, they can be underreactions, they can be on par reactions. We'll get into them as we go this morning. But, John, let's start with you. What did you think about the match? What did you think about Atlanta's performance? What does it mean for Atlanta to get this win in the way that they did?
Well, they went into the match, and obviously, when you're at home this time of year, you want to come out with full points. And when you were as dominant as you were in chances and possession early on, and I know that a lot of folks were looking, and as I was looking on the Twitter timelines of all of the quote-unquote missed opportunities early, a lot of folks were kind of burying their head, wondering if it was going to be one of those days, but it turned out not to be. And when you have the performance like you had with Julian Gressel out wide, and you look at the numbers after the match with 7 chances created on 44, and with 44 total passes and passing accuracy of about 7 out of every 9. And you see the brilliance of a differente, as Felipe Cardenas says, with Pity Martinez, with him dropping some absolute dimes out there. It was, you could sit there, and honestly, I think that you could sit there and look at folks like Miles, look at Julian, look at Joseph, look at PT, and look at each and every individual who did something out there, and you can sit there and say something about their performance. And that's what you have, and that's what you need in matchups like this, where you have that full team performance that gets you full points. And I know when we get into the timeline, we'll get into what some of the folks have said about the match in and of itself. But to your point about Glenn Crooks after the match and him catching up with Dome Tarrant, Tarrant says, what's the reason you play different against Atlanta? You have to be brave in Atlanta. If you're scared here, forget about it. Stay in New York. You have to play. And Atlanta played yesterday.
Yeah, Atlanta played yesterday, but no, that's not what Dome Tarrant's saying. He's saying that you don't come in here and bunker. Like, he's not talking about Atlanta playing. Atlanta's always going to play. We know that. And NYC's always going to play. And I think we should know that by now with Dome Tarrant. You're not going to see a New York City team come in and bunker and play, 5-6 behind the ball and try to play on the counter. No, they're going to come in and play, and they're going to be brave. And they were brave. And they played well. It's not about, I think, and Dome's been through this with his time with Pep Guardiola at Barcelona. I always looked at teams that would approach a match with Barcelona in a negative stance, in a defensive stance, as you've already got one foot in the loss column.
Yep.
Because eventually you're going to get broken down. Like, maybe you get that 1 in 100 game where you just keep everything out, your goalkeeper stands on their head, and you get a draw. Maybe you get that 1 in a million game where you do all that and you get a lucky set piece or one counter and you win 1-0. But chances are you're going to get blown out, because you're going to get broken down eventually. That's what Dome Tarrant's saying here. He's saying you got to be brave because you got to come into the Benz and play. And honestly, I think with the way Atlanta plays, you have to be brave to play them anywhere. And we will see how Portland approaches it, how Orlando approaches it for the second time in a month, how Philadelphia approaches it coming up in league play, because it's easier for teams to be brave at home. It's much harder to be brave on the road.
No doubt.
And this is something Atlanta United has to be as well. Like when they go on the road, not that they get defensive, but they have to be brave. They have to play their game. They have to play as fast as they did yesterday at the Benz. They have to play 1-2 touch. They have to play quick. They have to trust where their teammates are. They have to play instinctually. They can't think about it. That's the difference between what Atlanta does, I think what NYC does for the most part, I think what LAFC does. I think what the top teams in this league do is that they play fast. They have talented players who can pull it off, and they play with instinct. And when they get away from that is when they struggle. When they lean into it, it's when they play well. Atlanta played really well yesterday. NYC played well, but Atlanta played even better. Let's hear some of the highlights from 92.9 The Game. Myself, Mike Conti on the call. Here's Mike as Joseph Martinez opens the scoring.
Free kick, Atlanta United. Nagby plays it over to the near touchline to Julian Gressel. Crosses the halfway line. Chops it inside to Pitti. Back to Gressel in the near corner. Gressel with the cross to the back post. Joseph, header! Score! And the King has become a legend. 2 more records for Joseph Martinez. And Atlanta United's got the 1-0 lead.
Joseph nearly added a second one, but Sean Johnson was really strong yesterday, made a few big saves. Here's one of them.
Now here's Miram, 45 yards from goal to Barco. Caught back to Miram, catches him in stride, coming down the left wing. Miram races into the box, cross, Joseph, shot! Tipped over the crossbar by Sean Johnson for another corner.
I think that might have been Johnson's best save, where Merrim cut one back to Joseph, and he's just a little behind him, so he kind of cuts at it, and I believe it was going into the upper 90 on the near side, but Sean gets a hand to it and pushes it just over and wide. But Atlanta does find a second goal, and it's Pitti Martinez, workmanlike to get on an overhit ball. I think it was intended for Joseph. It was too far. Joseph gave up on it. Pitti didn't. Gets into the 18 and earns a penalty.
Gressel with an ambitious ball down the middle. Joseph breaks off. Pitti stays on it. Pitti collides at the top of the 18 and has the ball now. Pitti left side of the box, dribbles in, and is knocked down in the box. Penalty! James Sands. Action at the goal to our left in the 63rd minute. Hands-on hits for Joseph. Right behind the ball. Now steps to the left. Up to it. Strikes it. And scores! Another brace for Joseph. Another season with 20 goals. And Atlanta United's got a 2-0 lead.
So you can officially build the statue now. Joseph has scored in 10 straight matches. He has 70 goals in 76 Major League Soccer matches, regular season for Atlanta United. He has 18 multi-goal games. The first 2 of those are records. The multi-goal games, he's had that record for a long time. He's 8 better, or he doesn't have that record overall. He has had that record since he came into the league. Since he came into the league, he's 8 better than anybody else. He is still, doing quick math, 14 multi-goal games off the record, but Landon Donovan has that record with 32, and he played in about 350 MLS matches. Joseph has 18 multi-goal games in his 76 career MLS matches. It's insane. Robbie Keane is the closest one on the list in the top 10 in terms of matches played, ahead of Joseph in the top 8, and he played 125. So 49 more matches, and Joseph needs 3 more multi-goal games to pass Robbie Keane for multi-goal games in games played. It's just nuts. Joseph, we didn't expect him to play. I thought maybe he would be in the 18 and maybe be an option off the bench. He looked a little off his game early on. He did get some ice after the game. Looked like he was feeling that a little bit, but Joseph's just a warrior, and you're not going to be able to keep him off the field easily.
Let me ask you this, and this is a question that's more over the general scope of the match. When Atlanta United plays as they did yesterday, and I don't know if you and Mike can actually physically do this on the air, but as things are flowing and the field is tilted and Atlanta United is doing what they're doing offensively, do you have those Bud Collins out loud whistle moments where you sit there and you see something that is a moment of brilliance or just great fluidity when something happens and you sit there and the two of you have that moment of, man, that was really, really pretty? Because we had a lot of those, especially in the first half in the press box on our side.
I had 3 or 4 of them yesterday. I mean, Mike's rolling. Mike doesn't have time to stop and do that. He's got to keep everybody up to date on what's going on, where the ball's at, what's happening. Me in the background, yeah, Pitty 2 or 3 times yesterday. The ball that I would love to put it on a painting on my wall. The ball that he hit late in the game that Gressel had a shot that was saved by Johnson, or a shot that was deflected in front of Johnson. I think it was a throw, and it was kind of like deflected away and just popped up in the air, and Pitty spinning outside of the left foot, just perfect dime to Gressel. That Gressel takes a touch and hits a half volley that gets blocked in front. Pitty had another one that he dropped on Ezekiel Barco's right foot, and if Barco had hit it first time past Johnson, I might have fallen out of the booth. I think Gressel had one. I mean, Pitty's ball to Gressel on the first goal was just a spinning, no look. You know where he's running. You know exactly how much to put on the pass. And that's the really underrated thing about that ball from Pitty. It's one thing to know, all right, I can turn, I can hit this first time. I don't have to even think about it. I don't have to take a look. But second, to hit it with the perfect weight to where Julian Gressel doesn't have to take a touch to settle, doesn't have to do anything with it other than hit it first time. And he told us on the full-time report he felt like he overhit it just a little bit. But Joseph Martinez can go up and get that over Maxime Chanot, and he does.
Because, yeah, the one that sticks out in my mind, at least early on, was the PT to Barco, where it's that absolute lob wedge that PT hits, and I know that Barco didn't settle it and hit it cleanly.
Because
I think
he couldn't
glanced off his calf.
No, that's the thing is that ball. This is something that I want folks to understand what happened on that play. Barco didn't screw anything up.
No.
Just follow me here for a second. It's a ball that, let's see, in this league, in many leagues, you're talking 0.5% of players have the guts to hit the ball that Pitty did. And even less have the guts to try to do what Barco did. I'm rolling with those guys every time. I want guys to try that stuff. I want guys to do that. Barco didn't have time to settle it because Johnson would have clattered into him and probably sent him into row Z. Like, there was just no chance. Barco had to try to go first time with it. If he gets it past Johnson, it's a goal of the century type of goal. And I love that you have players in this team that, one, are feeling good enough to try it, and 2, good enough to nearly pull it off. There's plays like that, and this is one where you'll get into it where people will say, oh, well, that's a wasted chance. No, it's not.
No.
Wasted chances are different. That's not a wasted chance. That's an audacious chance. I like audacious chances. I like players and teams that'll try that stuff. There's no negative to that. It's that Barco,
no.
He didn't hit it off his calf. He didn't, I don't think he hit it full flush. He might have got it off his shin because he was trying to go first time at goal.
Yeah. Shin, not calf. Front of the leg, not the back.
Yeah, there's no chance for him to settle it. He doesn't have the space or the time to do it, so he has to try to go first time. But the ball from Pitty gave him a chance to score a wonder goal.
And that was why I specifically asked about those whistle moments, because that one specifically was audacious, and I'll use your word. And you just sit there, and there are moments like that where you just shake your head at the creativity that you see on display with everyone that was on that pitch yesterday.
Creativity, talent, technique, guts, because you will have people who will be like, oh, well, you should have done better. Oh, you should have done something safer. Oh, no, it takes guts to make plays like that. Pitty's got guts. Barco's got guts. They have the self-belief that they're going to pull that off sometimes, and I love it. The one that probably got the biggest reaction from me was one where I believe it was Pitty and I think Remedi. Remedi had kind of stood up Ronald Matarrita. Pitty doubled down and poked the ball away and then spun and nutmegged Matarrita as he was turning him, and Matarrita came in, two-footed him, halfway scissored him. Credit to Matarrita for, one, he was angry because he had just been shown up, and two, I think he realized halfway through his tackle, you know what, I should probably not do this because I'm going to get red carded. And he kind of backed off a little bit in the middle of it. He did get the straight yellow very fast, and it was the correct call. But, yeah, just something that quick and the nutmeg, and you anger a player so much that you can pick up a quick yellow. Pitty was on point yesterday. Pitty was outstanding. I thought Gressel was outstanding. He's created 31 chances since the start of the Houston game, including the Orlando Open Cup game. He hasn't had less than 3 chances created in any match. And for me, that part, above and beyond what we would expect, but he's also putting in the work defensively, and it's working so far. Teams have not been able to get down the flanks on Atlanta right now, and by all accounts, they should be able to, because when you look at it, you're taking a player that you're playing as a right wing back right now in Julian Gressel for his attacking ability. You're playing Justin Merrim at left wing back for the first time in his career, but you are dominating the game. And remember all the talk early this season about Frank DeBoer wants to control games, wants to dominate games. You are dominating the match to the point that you can play 2 attacking players at wingback and get away with it. That doesn't happen by accident. That's not, oh, well, that's just a nice coincidence. No, you're controlling the game to where you can do that, and you can play 2 attacking players at wingback, and they're not getting punished for it. It's twofold. I mean, Merrim and Gressel are putting in the work defensively when they have to, but luckily they don't have to very much. That's the overriding point here, is because you're doing so well in controlling the game, they don't have to sit back and defend very much. And you were going up against Anton Tinnerholm and Ronald Matarrita yesterday, 2 players who are very good getting forward. Matarrita, I think, is better going forward than he is defending. Tinnerholm is one of the better right-sided players in the league. They didn't really give you anything going forward. NYC didn't really create much from the flanks yesterday at all. Atlanta created everything from the flanks. NYC didn't. NYC, when they did get dangerous, it was through the middle. And it was Matriza, and it was Morales especially, even on maybe 75% of what he usually has. Those were the guys who were dangerous. Castellanos was just a beast, working hard, throwing his body around, trying to make things happen, antagonizing. Like, I was really impressed with Tati Castellanos. And in A-Bear, we know his quality when he comes on. And it's Morales getting one to him. They pull one back late, but Atlanta's able to see it out. It was a really good match. It was played at a very high pace, a very high level of quality, and I think you saw 2 of the best teams in the league, and not just the Eastern Conference, in the league. And I think they gave you a very entertaining 90 minutes at the Benz yesterday. There's a lot of talking points. We're going to get to them. We're going to get to your tweets right after this. So give us your Overreaction Monday takes. They can be underreactions. They can be on par reactions. All that's cool. Tweet at us at Soccer Down Here. Be right back after this.
Looking for future leaders we can trust and believe in? Look no further than the high school student athletes right here in Georgia. High school sports teach young people how to be effective leaders. It begins by making their grades and being on time for practice. It includes learning to listen, following directions, accepting responsibility, being a good role model. And it's about respect for officials, opponents, the rules, and each other. The result? It transcends sports. It gives us hope for the future. High school sports. There's so much more than just a game. This message presented by the Georgia High School Association and the Georgia Athletic Directors Association.
Today's show is presented by Appolinsky & Associates, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience, supporters of Atlanta United, Faction, and Inter-Atlanta Youth Football Club. If you've been hurt in a wreck, contact Steve today at steve@aa-legal.com or call in 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Welcome back. August 12th, Overreaction Monday. There are reactions, or
There are.
What was? Go ahead and do it, Ben, and explain it because I don't remember it again.
What?
The reaction.
Fix your modif. Oh, Hacksaw Hamilton. Reaction.
Hacksaw Hamilton. There we go. It's a Hacksaw Hamilton overreaction.
Former
Monday.
WCW color commentator and voice of the San Diego Chargers.
There we go.
Reaction.
Reaction. Okay, cool.
Yes.
What do we have?
I'm going to go back to yesterday.
Well, yeah, there's all the reactions starting yesterday, probably during the game.
Yeah, that's correct. Grant Butler. Okay, I'm officially on the PT gets no calls bandwagon. His yellow card was questionable, and the second penalty shout he had late looked like an obvious foul.
I'm trying to remember his yellow card. I think it was okay.
It was a whiff on Callens over on the far.
Yeah, but I wasn't too bothered by it. I think if I remember right, you could see Pitti running a little hot about something that had happened. He was a little angry. Catches some of Callens. It's enough. I'm okay with the yellow. I won't get into that one. The penalty, I mean, oh man.
Yeah.
I didn't get a good look as everything was happening, and I'm assuming, let me put it this way. I'm hoping that the video assistant referee just didn't get the looks quickly because it's at the end of the game. NYC is trying to find an equalizer. You're not trying to hold up play for a long period of time. I get all that, and all that's fine. But, really? Like, the replay that I saw afterwards, I don't know how that's not a penalty. Now, I'd have to go back and see where Marufo was, so I don't know what he saw. If I remember right, it's a ball that Marufo could have been closer to midfield because transition was pretty quick. And that's fine, and he could be out of position on it. He didn't get any help from his AR, who should have been actually with a really good look at it because it was on the AR's half of the field in that corner. So the AR should have been able to help. And if the AR can't help, the video assistant referee should help. And, I mean, there's no touch on the ball. There's no real attempt to play the ball because of the way the defender cuts across Pity Martinez. Like, you're not trying to play the ball with a hip check and a straight leg across the attacking player. So it's a penalty. I mean, and he made contact. I mean, I can't figure out what the justification is that it's not a penalty. And no, Pity Martinez has a reputation for going down easy, or he was theatrical, or whatever you want to come up with. That's not a justification for not calling an obvious penalty. It's just not. So, I don't know. Should have been a penalty, and I think Pity probably would have been able to take that one. Maybe. I don't know. That would have made it 3-1. That would have been late. Maybe. Joseph still might have taken it. He would have been on a hat trick.
Joseph takes the penalties.
No, that's a different one. I mean, no, Joseph doesn't take the penalty when it's 6-0.
No.
That's what I'm saying. Like, Joseph takes the important penalties. That's one. I'd have to go back and look at the clock on it. Because if you get that penalty, because you got to go back and think, you're going to go to VAR, you're going to look at it. You're in stoppage time by that point, I think. it could be one of the last kicks of the game. Maybe you give Pitti that penalty, and that's a maybe. But if Joseph takes it, nobody says a word, and he takes it, and he probably puts it away. But yeah, that should have been a penalty. I can't come up with a justification why it's not.
No, and a lot of folks were actually hoping that Jair Jurgens would be more of an effective center ref than Jair Marufo.
Well, see, here's the thing about Marufo. Marufo had a great year last year. I love the way he handled the postseason. I thought he did good work all season, honestly. And he had, one game or two at the World Cup last year in 2018. You don't get those games without being a good referee. But this year has been really strange. And Alan Kelly's had some strange ones too. But Marufo, he was the referee for the Zlatan elbow El Trafico game. And that's an egregious mistake in my book. The thing for me about yesterday, his mannerisms were bizarre at times. And look, we don't have, we're not getting true field sound in the radio booth. So maybe Marufo has a stronger whistle than I felt like he did. I felt like there were too many times that you couldn't tell if he blew the whistle or not. You couldn't tell if players knew that there was a stoppage or not a stoppage. And you had a lot of times where it felt like the players were looking around like, are we playing? Are we not playing? Is there a foul? Is there a free kick? Is there offside? Is there a goal kick? What's going on? And that's not a good spot to be in. I do like that he's a referee who doesn't want to just throw cards around for no reason, but then he gives one to Leandro Gonzalez Perez very quickly, and it's like, wait a minute. That's not how you've been calling the game. It just felt really weird yesterday. It was the game with Marufo that I've probably liked the least from a referee perspective. And so much of it was just unclear, body language, if that makes sense. It just, you couldn't tell what he was doing so many times. And the way he signaled advantage was kind of awkward at times. It felt like it was unclear far too often if he was playing advantage or not. I don't know. It was a weird performance from him because he's a very good referee, and he's the type of referee that I like. I know we've talked about it this season about, Ezequiel Barco not getting calls or not getting as many calls or not getting cards on the opposition when he gets hit. Pity Martinez not getting calls, all the same stuff. We've talked about that a lot, and I think it's easy to think that, we would rather have, or I would rather have specifically, a referee who blows the whistle a lot more. I honestly wouldn't. I want a referee who blows the whistle at the right times, and I want a referee who is not going to just throw a bunch of cards to try to manage the game when they could manage the game through conversation, through their personality. I don't want to see players get unnecessary yellow card accumulation suspensions, and card-happy refs are part of the reason that happens sometimes. But yesterday, Marufo was just so inconsistent and so unclear. It didn't feel like he had a great control of the match because of that. And it was just awkward. And it's not the type of performance that you expect out of Jair Marufo. I think he's a better referee than it came off yesterday.
Kevin from Charlotte has created a poll with 4 answers to it, and he's wanting everyone to participate.
Okay.
So, since Joseph's statue has to be built, which would you rather see? The iconic stare, the kneel to the king, arms out, or the half fusion pose?
You can't do the half fusion pose. Not going to do that one. I would probably do the kneel to the king. I mean, I know that's a little bit of a newer thing for Joseph, but it's really appropriate. So yeah, I'd go with that.
So go to at KTSCLT because his poll is up and running, and that is where you need to answer that question. But no, I would go probably the kneel to the king myself. So And a lot of folks also chimed in on the conversation that we had yesterday on the tailgate show with Joey Howie and Majestic Soccer. So that was nice to see.
Yeah, that was very cool. It was great to have Joey up on our tailgate show. Joey is one of the leaders of the Majestic Soccer Club, one of the longer-running amateur clubs in the Atlanta area, and they were having a pretty cool kind of homecoming reunion event at the Faction tailgate yesterday. So great to talk to Joey, great to talk about ADASL and the amateur game in Atlanta. Their season's coming up about a month away. I think they're starting just a little bit earlier than usual, late September this season. And what I love that the ADASL is doing more of, because they're structured as a traditional league. They have their season that runs fall to spring. They have a cup competition in it that includes all of their divisions. They do a summer league that's separate too, which is very cool. But they're putting more of an emphasis on regional play, and I think the cup winner goes to the National Amateur Cup competition, and their first division winner goes into Open Cup qualifying at the regional level. So really good to see. I mean, ADASL, you're talking about a league that started in 1967. It started in the fall after the Chiefs brought professional soccer to Atlanta. So for organizations like the ADASL and the Decatur YMCA youth program that predate the Georgia State Soccer Association to still be going and thriving, it's pretty cool. And it's pretty cool now that you have clubs that have been around long enough to have homecomings and reunions.
In kind of a spin-off of wanting the statue and the plaques being sponsored by Jared Smith, according to Scott, Scott had a question to the floor, and it has to do with Joseph. And there is a rather long thread, justifiably so, over all of Joseph's accomplishments. And the question posed by Scott, after he posts 13 different accomplishments, plus All-Star MVP, regular season MVP, MLS Cup MVP all in the same season, single-season game-winning goals, and the most points in a 2-year period, is Joseph the greatest goal scorer / player in MLS history? And then he posts all 13 accomplishments plus what has been done in the last 2 years.
For a career, no, he's not, because it's 2 2/3 years. And that does play into it. Is he the best in terms of quality and what we've seen so far? Yeah, because nobody's done it at the rate that he has. So, yes, I think so. But over a career, it's almost a different conversation. It's like the conversation I have with people where, the greatest soccer player ever. For me, it's Diego Maradona at his peak. He just didn't have a long peak for a lot of reasons. Some of them self-inflicted. Some of them his body was giving out because he was getting kicked on a regular basis. But there are also plenty of self-inflicted reasons for Diego Maradona not staying at his peak for a very long time. He didn't have the longevity of a career. He didn't have the overall career of a Pele, for example. But at his peak, I think he was the best. Lionel Messi is putting together a career that, over an extended period of time, probably going to be the best, although there will be people who will argue that because he doesn't have a World Cup to his name. It's all subjective, but there's a difference between what a player does in a short period of time at their peak and what they do over a career. And you have to respect, players like Chris Wondolowski, Landon Donovan, and what they've done in this league over a career. Jaime Moreno is in that conversation for me. But just shorter bursts of brilliance, nobody's done what Joseph has done. It's just not even close. And how long can he do it at this pace? I mean, I didn't think he could do it another year at this pace, and he's still doing it. So I'm just putting my hands up and waiting to watch and enjoying it along the way, because this doesn't happen on a regular basis.
And I will. This past week is the last week that I will have doubted ever that Joseph was not going to be in a lineup.
Well, no, I mean, I'm not going to say that because injuries can happen. You never know. But I think it was clear enough that this was not a significant injury. I think there was some confusion coming out of Orlando and some of the comments made afterwards. But it felt pretty clear that this wasn't significant. I still thought that you would look at him off the bench in an optimistic scenario yesterday, and then either off the bench or not playing in Campione's Cup, and then ready to go for Portland. That's where my head was. So, I mean, yeah, you can question him not being in a lineup if there's a more significant injury. But this one, I was optimistic, and I still wasn't optimistic enough. So,
Andrew Baker, soccer listing in Germany. Realistically, Miles should be getting interest from overseas and for pretty good money considering how much defenders are going for. But I feel like until he breaks into the national team, it'll be tough for him to get a visa to play in most of Europe.
No, most of Europe's not the issue. England is the issue. England and their work permit situation's completely different than other countries. But the money is an interesting conversation because, you know, we have some numbers on Aaron Long, who Aaron Long is a valid comparison for Miles Robinson at this point. Long has broken into the national team here very recently. He's older than Robinson, which would help Robinson's price, but it sounds like Aaron Long was getting offers in the $4 to $5 million range. For Robinson, I mean, considering he was a draft pick, you you didn't sign him on a transfer. You didn't even really put you didn't put academy development time into him. You put development time into him, but he was a draft pick, so that's a great return on a draft pick. Is that enough for where he is and what he is? And I think the bigger question, because it hasn't really been asked of him that I've heard, is, you know, what is Miles thinking career trajectory wise? You know, is he after that challenge? Maybe not. If he continues to play at this level and continues to develop his ability to step forward and break lines with passes and become more of a threat on set pieces, oh yeah, he'll get offers for sure. But $4 million for Miles right now doesn't feel like enough, because I think Miles Robinson's a better signing than Aaron Long because of the age. And because I still don't think he's hit his ceiling yet. I think Aaron Long is playing the best he will play. And he can sustain it for a while, don't get me wrong. But Miles has more developing to do, and he's younger. So his price should be higher. We'll see what happens. You're going to get offers if he continues to play at this level, though. That's a definite.
WDE_Mitchell. So WDE, we ready. So War Eagle Mitchell. Looking ahead to the next CBA, if every team had the ability to add a fourth DP tomorrow, what position would you go after? I assume he's thinking of Atlanta United first.
Oof. I've said it before. I think a world-class 6 would be the one I would go for with Atlanta United. I think that would be the most transformative position you could add to this team. I mean, if you have a designated player spot, you can always upgrade any spot on the field outside of your existing designated player spots. But I think a 6 would be the one that would transform this to an even higher level. And it's a pretty good level right now. I want to think about it on some other teams, though. We'll go through that here in just a second, because that is a possibility, and it's been kicked around a few times, and you hear some media folks say that that's a possibility when the LA Galaxy made the move that they made for Christian Pavone, who played pretty well last night, but not well enough. DC gets the win over the Galaxy. Maybe the Galaxy need a 5th designated player, or a 6th, maybe a 7th. I don't know. They might try to push
38.
it. Yeah, it can happen. Let's take a break, and let's look around the league and see what teams could do if that happens, or what they... Maybe the better way to put it is, at this stage of the season, with a lot of teams looking at 8, 9, maybe 10 games left, what's their biggest weakness? We can run through that real quick, and that'll get us into what happened over the weekend. We're going to take a quick break. Be right back after this.
A ranger station.
I'd like to report a bear hug.
Okay.
I put out my campfire and Smokey Bear hugged me.
So you drowned the fire, you stirred it, drowned it again, and felt that it was cold?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, he's just letting you know you did good.
Bear hug from Smokey Bear. Status update.
I'm gonna let you go now. There are many ways to start a fire, but one sure way to put it out. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service Ad Council and your state forester.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus. And Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
This is what matters. This is beyond X's and O's. This is the difference mutual respect makes. This is what character looks like. This is what defines us in Georgia. This is sportsmanship. School sports. It's not the outcome that matters most, but the way the games are played. This message presented by the Georgia High School Association and the Georgia Athletic Directors Association.
If you've been hurt in a car wreck, contact my friend Steve Apolinsky of Apolinsky & Associates. He's been representing individuals for over 30 years throughout Georgia and Alabama. Email him at steve@aa-legal.com or call him 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
Welcome back. August 12th edition of SDH. It's an Overreaction Monday, getting into all of the reactions from the weekend. Question on the table is, if you had a fourth designated player, what direction would you go around the league? I think the other thing a fourth designated player allows you to do, generally we see designated players as strikers, as playmakers, as wingers, a few box-to-box midfielders, maybe. I'm trying to think of some. A defender here and there, a goalkeeper here and there. But it's usually attacking players. I think adding a fourth, you would see more teams use it in a defensive manner. I think you'd see far more fourth designated players being defenders than we've ever seen. And when you start looking at teams, that's the position that probably needs upgrading the most. You know, let's look at LAFC, for example. When you take into account ratings from a source like Who Scored, and you look at their regulars who have the lowest ratings, and look, they don't have many. Tyler Miller's one. I would be very hesitant to use a designated player on a goalkeeper. I don't think you have to. So then you're talking about center backs, Eddie Segura, Danilo Silva, who hasn't played much this season, and Jordan Harvey at left back. So Stephen Beta-Short right back. I would probably go left back because LAFC is relying on a 35-year-old left back, Jordan Harvey, who got a goal last night. He has assists this season, but he would be the weakest link when you're looking at, okay, I can go add a fourth designated player right now. What position can I upgrade the most? And that would be it. Some teams would look at it as an opportunity to go sign a big name. And you have to keep that in mind as well, because some teams need that. I need to figure out how many teams are actually using all three of their designated player slots to begin with, because I don't think everybody is. So that would be another part of the conversation is, okay, you add a fourth. How many teams actually need a fourth? Not all of them. And that's a little bit of a shame, and that's what the argument would be from some clubs is that, well, we don't need a fourth because not everybody's using three. And that's why I kind of go back to the idea that has been brought up on the show before. Maybe you just treat designated player slots like international slots, and there is 4 per team available in the league, and if you don't want to use yours, you can trade it, or you can sell it and bring in assets. Maybe that's the way to go, as opposed to you have 2 and then you have to pay a certain amount into the league to use the third, and then that money gets divided up among teams that don't use the third. I mean, I guess you could follow that through to add a fourth and do the same process, but I think it might be more beneficial for the league to flip it and treat it like international slots. So every time a team comes into the league, you're adding 4 more designated player slots to the overall amount in the league. And if teams want to go out and trade for a fifth, okay, cool. They're going to have to find a way to make that work with a trade. And then they're still going to have to work on the salary cap because there is a hit on the cap. So it'd be interesting. I think it could be a little more effective that way. But I think it would be a position that would get used more on defenders, on defensive midfielders, and players of that ilk, as opposed to the types of designated players we typically see.
Here are the teams that don't have 3 as of June 12th. So basically, as of 2 months ago, here are the ones that don't have 3.
Okay.
Cincinnati has 2.
And they
Colorado
did not
has
add a third in the summer window, which isn't a shock. I mean, they're new. I kind of somewhat get that one. So, okay, that's not shocking.
Colorado has 1.
And that's Tim Howard, who's retiring. So they'll be wide open to start next season, which is really interesting. And that, to me, if you're looking at a job, if you're a coach and you're looking for an interesting job, you got 3 designated player slots to do what you want. Now, you got to have buy-in from ownership to spend that money.
Mm-hmm.
But, man, you talk about a blank slate coming into a new season. That's a pretty good place to be.
DC with 2.
DC with 2. I think Ola Kamara's transfer fee makes him a third designated player for them because it was reported at $2.5 million. I don't know the length of his deal. So he's borderline, and he's that type of designated player that might be eventually bought down with TAM, and that makes sense. And you've got some like that too, and you got to remember that. You've got teams that are sitting on, I think Seattle is one, that is sitting on a third designated player that is able to be bought down if you wanted to add another. So you have that ability too with some squads. Anybody else?
Oh, yeah. Houston with 2, Elise and Tomas Martinez.
And Elise is probably going to be sold, and if you were going to keep Manotas, I think you'd have to put him on a designated player deal to keep him, and that's not going to happen either, I don't think. So Houston's another one that feels like Colorado in some ways. I think it could be time to start from scratch. And I've liked Wilmer Cabrera for the most part. I think he's rotated his squad a little bit too much at times. But I think he's tried to – I think he's succeeded some in getting a lot out of a limited roster. But this year it feels like it's kind of gone off the rails for him.
Montreal with 2 months ago, Piatti and Taider.
Did the Finn Lapalainen, is he a designated player?
Definitely.
I don't know. He might be close. Montreal's one that I think would use 3 or 4 if the right players become available. I don't see them as not using them if it was a possibility.
So Lapalainen is on loan from Bologna. Options to extend.
Well, if they don't say he's on a designated player deal on,
nope.
You can be on DP as a loan
via TAM.
Okay, so he's a TAM. All right, so yeah. Not quite.
So Lapalainen's a TAM. New England had Carlos.
I don't think is a designated player. I think he's a TAM, but I don't think they announced him as a designated player either.
Yeah, New England had Carlos Heel 2 months ago, and that's just the one.
So they've added Gustavo Bo, who's a designated player. That's
right.
That's a definite one with his transfer fee, and they've tried to add more. So keep an eye on New England. I think they would do it now that I don't think Bruce Arena takes the job if he's not going to get the spend from Robert Kraft.
Red Bulls have 2 months ago, BWP and Kaku.
And that's not a surprise. I mean, that's the approach that Red Bulls have taken. They re-signed Aaron Long. They did not put him on a designated player deal. If the interest continues and they say he's a foundational piece, and all that's probably true, they're going to have to put him on a designated player deal, or his agent's going to make a lot of noise about leaving, and I think eventually you'd have to sell him. So if you want to keep him, you're probably going to have to give him another raise.
Philadelphia had 2, Fabian and Bedoya.
Yeah, and that's that's a team that I'm not surprised isn't spending a ton of money. I don't think they will under their current ownership, so not a shock there. But they have 45 points and lead the East, so I think they're okay.
And then the last one on the board with 2 was San Jose with Vaco and Wando.
Yeah, I think they'll go out and find one. And I don't know if they did in the summer window. I don't think they're signing. I don't think he was a designated player. I think they got him on TAM. So some of those have changed in the summer window, which you have to take into consideration. And then I think some more will change when you get into the winter window. And that's going to be a weird winter window. That's why you want to get the CBA stuff done as soon as possible, so you go into that transfer window knowing what your rosters can look like. Because that's kind of the great unknown if you're going into a window and you don't know what your collective bargaining agreement is going to allow you to do.
So that's your rundown of that.
That might be
and
Joey
that
Saputo
is
giving you an update.
I think it is. I don't want an update from Bologna right now because that's just how I'm wired. You know, in as much as I could spell Lapalainen, don't want an update from Bologna about things.
No.
John Nason, I don't wish him to be injured and miss games, but how much of LAFC's dominance is down to Vela? And how do you think they perform without him? #Overreaction Monday.
I think they'd perform really well without him. I don't think he is being used in a role where he is 100% dominant. I think it's different than we saw Miguel Almiron in Atlanta, but there are some similarities in that Bob Bradley was able to build a team around Carlos Vela and get the best out of him. Part of that is when LAFC presses, and they're very good at it, Vela hangs off, and it's really clever. He hangs out. He doesn't get involved in chasing as much. He does some, but not all the time. And when he bails out of the press, when LAFC wins the ball, they play it to him immediately. That's first choice. And then he's wide open because he bailed out of the press. So it's brilliant. And then he's got usually a 1v1. And Carlos Vela is very good in those situations. It's a great game plan to get the best out of him. Atlanta United built their team around what Miguel Almiron could give them. And it worked. And it led them to MLS Cup. We'll see if this works the same for Bob Bradley and Carlos Vela. I think they would be very good if Carlos Vela wasn't there and you had another very good player in that role. They wouldn't be as good, but they'd be very good. I think if you tried to play the same way and replaced Vela, you could. If you tried to play the exact same way, replacing Almiron with another player, you can't. And I think we saw that earlier this season, and you've seen the evolution of what Atlanta has become. I don't think Vela is that transformative to LAFC. I think they're getting the best out of him, but you could replace him with another player and get similar results. Maybe not record-setting like he's doing right now with goals and assists, but a good bit of those numbers for me are coming out of the team play from LAFC.
Nathan Pugh with a couple of thoughts.
Okay.
One, PT and Barco in the midfield look really up for it.
Yeah, definitely.
Two, Nagbe needs to be wrapped in cotton wool on off days. How crucial is he in transition?
He's important. That's why you go get Emerson Heineman, though, because then you do have somebody who can give Nagbe a day off from time to time. Remedi can, too. Remedi just does it differently. Heineman is a little more like for like with Nagbe, but yeah, Darlington Nagbe, just his ability to get out of trouble. He's got a change of pace that just not many have. You know, he can be gliding around, just kind of cool and casual, and then hit the turbo button and blow past you, and then back to gliding and chilling. He's really good with that change of pace to lose defenders.
3 from Nathan. How much of an issue is Gressel's contract going to be in the offseason? What a fella. #Overreaction Monday.
That's what's so hard. We don't know all the situations with the salary cap and with who's got option years and who's out of contract and who wants to leave. Like there's so many unknowns that it's really hard to even dig into. There are going to be some tough decisions. I mean, I think we know enough to say that you've got guys who have been here for 3 years. Generally, you're going to have contracts up, or you're going to be going into the last year of a contract or an option year. You don't want to be in situations where players play out their contract because then you don't have any leverage. They can walk on a free, and you don't want to be in that situation. Sometimes you take the risk because of what that player could do for you in terms of winning a trophy, and you hope that they'll stay and blah, blah, blah. It's not easy. And you're going to have a few players in a situation. I think Leandro Gonzalez-Perez will be in that boat, Julian Gressel. Miles Robinson will likely graduate. Well, no, he will definitely graduate Generation Adidas. You got to figure out next for him. There's going to be a few. And then you're also going to look at, okay, you're going to have players like Michael Parkhurst and Jeff Lorenowitz who have transitioned into more reserve roles this year. Do they stay for another year of that? You're going to have to think about the squad as a whole, top to bottom, and there's going to be some openings. And you're going to have some players who have outperformed the contract that they're on. So it will be a challenge. And I think you will see some faces leave and you'll see some new faces come in just because it's the nature of the business. And Gressel is one that I think a lot of people zero in on because he was a draft pick. He wasn't on a huge number coming out of college. He wasn't expected to be what he's been coming out of college. He has been maybe the biggest success story in the last 10 years out of the college draft. You have to go back and look and see who else could be in that conversation. But Julian Gressel's pretty freaking close if he's not. And players coming out of the college draft generally are not on large salary numbers. So now we'll see what happens for him going forward. We'll see what happens for LGP because I know there was talk about negotiations for him for a new deal. It's going to be an interesting offseason. Gwen's already getting fired up about it. She's got her opinions.
Sweet.
Yes, she has some very strong opinions about signings and moves that should be made. And I'll talk to her about those offline. I don't think she understands the roster rules very well, so I'll try to explain it to her. She wants to keep everybody. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back. We're going to get Kelly Francis on the line and talk about kind of what the vibe was in the building yesterday. I want to get a sense from Kelly what things were like for her watching this. And Gwen has a lot of questions for Kelly, too.
Gwen's fired up about Kelly.
Gwen is riled up. All right. We'll get Kelly Francis on the line and talk some more Atlanta United and everything else going on in the world of Atlanta soccer. Hang out with us. We'll be right back after this.
Looking for future leaders we can trust and believe in? Look no further than the high school student athletes right here in Georgia. High school sports teach young people how to be effective leaders. It begins by making their grades and being on time for practice. It includes learning to listen, following directions, accepting responsibility, being a good role model. And it's about respect for officials, opponents, the rules, and each other. The result? It transcends sports. It gives us hope for the future. High school sports. There's so much more than just a game. This message presented by the Georgia High School Association and the Georgia Athletic Directors Association.
Today's show is presented by Appolinsky & Associates, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience, supporters of Atlanta United, Faction, and Inter-Atlanta Youth Football Club. If you've been hurt in a wreck, contact Steve today at steve@aa-legal.com or call in 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency, or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
You're listening to Soccer Down Here daily on SDH Networks, a division of OSG Sports. Find us at Soccer Down Here on Facebook and Twitter. The time is now the top of the hour. Peep, y'all.
Welcome back. Overreaction Monday. Soccer Down Here, August 12th. Joining us now, the Kelly Francis on Twitter.
Yeah, the only one there is. I just had to make
the
that.
only
Up.
Kelly Francis allowed to exist. We have right here.
The only one allowed to exist. That's why it's the Jason.
The.
Okay.
Not
might be
a
another
Kelly
one in Idaho
Francis.
somewhere. I'm just saying.
The Kelly Francis.
Possibly. Correct.
Maybe in
Hi,
Montana.
guys.
Morning.
What'd you think yesterday? Big win for Atlanta
Most
United.
days, whenever there's like a double name, that's like, it was a big win. Yeah. So coming from me from the stands, I basically stood in the supporter section the whole game. Normally I end up like switching around and going to different see different angles of the game when I can, but I stood oh, hi guys, sorry. Am I breaking up?
Yeah, turning into a robot a little bit, Kelly.
You went robot
no.
Kelly. You went
I'm sorry.
robot Kelly Francis.
Yep, the only one of those two. Oh my Lord. It was a great game. I think after the first goal, there really wasn't any going back from that. I went back and rewatched a little bit just because you can't really see much from where I'm sitting. And it looked like we high pressed NYCFC for the first time really that I think we've ever seen this year. And that was sort of really incredible to watch. And then, getting Joseph back into his 10-goal streak now, which is the longest in MLS. You can't top that, really.
The press, it's interesting you mentioned that because it's something that Julian Gressel told us on the full-time report too. They didn't do a lot of it because they had the possession advantage, so they didn't have to do a lot of it. But Julian felt like their press was really effective, and NYC was having problems with it. And New York City's a team, and Dome Tarrant basically said after the match, like, look, if you're going to come in to Mercedes-Benz Stadium, you have to be brave when you play Atlanta United. And you know how they're going to play. You can't sit back and just defend against them because they're going to pick you apart. You have to play. And against Atlanta, when they can step up and press a little bit, they don't have to do it as much as they did in year one because they're controlling the game more and they're controlling the ball more. But when you can turn to it and break a team up like NYC that, look, they were the best team in possession in the league coming into the season and coming into this match. And they had first half, I think 30% of the ball, 35% of the ball. That's strong from Atlanta. I thought the press and their possession work was really good.
Yeah, and then it just caused NYCFC to have a lot of turnover. It caused them to sort of not really hold the line like they should, and it worked, obviously, as you saw with the, I believe it was the first counted goal that we had last night was that beautiful pass from Julian to Pitti and the back pass between two players to open up Julian for that cross, which he one-timed and didn't even look. It was a one-time non-look, and just what sort of an arrow that was for Joseph to be on the end of it. I mean, we're talking about three guys who had an outstanding game yesterday, but I think the one that should be mentioned that really just was remarkable. This was his best game this whole season, is Pitti Martinez. I mean, he was on fire last night, and it sort of sucks that, when he obviously was up in New York's third and in the box and dropped the pin, that he wasn't able to
Yeah, but Joseph's got to take the penalties. You know, I mean, in a perfect world, sure. In a perfect world, it would have been the fourth goal or the fifth goal, and then you can give that one up. But at 1-0, yeah, Joseph has to take it.
There's no going around that at all. If you're only up by a little bit, Joseph's taking that. Otherwise, go take it. But
Pitty lobbied pretty hard.
Just one hell of a match.
He did.
Yeah, he did. And you can clearly see it, obviously, when he's sitting on the ground. He's just asked.
It was funny.
And he'll get his chance. Dog. He definitely will. But, exactly. But, I mean, just incredible play from Pity Martinez. And what a day to have a game like he did. And going into, the Champions Cup, which to me doesn't seem like a game that serious. I mean, there is a cup on the line, but it doesn't seem, heading into this upcoming weekend, and then of course the Open Cup match next week. It's going to be really interesting to see sort of how he carries this momentum.
There were a lot of those holy bleep moments yesterday, and Jason and I talked about it in the first hour, where you want to see that artistry, you want to see that imagination, you want to see that flow happen. And we have one perspective. What was it like with what you were a part of in the supporter section there in the end zone and all the places where you were when all of these holy bleep moments were happening? What was the response in the crowd?
It's the same response it always is beers thrown or just chants being spewed out of everybody's mouths. I mean, it was a very riled up game yesterday, and the supporter section was probably the most energetic I've seen it in a while. But it was this whole feeling of, in a weird sense, us being at home, which doesn't seem like a weird statement to say, but the supporter section's been going through some ups and downs and the lack of energy sometimes that we've been giving and this whole disparity of us being a group. But yesterday it felt like we were finally, one again, and we were all home and riled up and ready to go. And, when those moments happen, you just carry on with pushing forward with chants and with screaming, and hence why I don't have my voice today. It's just one of those moments where you have a feeling in yourself of euphoria, but you want to carry that and push that out into the whole stadium, and I think we did a good job of that yesterday.
Yeah, I thought the sound and everything kind of built, and I thought the team and the way that the game played out kind of brought some life out of the crowd, and it felt like it got louder and more intense as the day went on, and that's an important part of the whole process. And I think people, maybe coming from other sports, you look at it like, how much of an effect does it really have? It does. You don't hear the individual words as much when you're on the field and you're playing in those moments, but you feel it. And I think especially at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, like, and you can feel it in the stands. Like, there's a difference between, okay, it's a normal game. Okay, this has got us a little jacked up. And okay, wow, my ribs are shaking. Like, there are differences in how it feels, and I think you see it play out on the field. You
do. I mean, as a player, they've said it before, there's no feeling like playing in front of that large of a crowd. And I mean, when the whole stadium is feeling it, that's something that shakes you to your core. And yesterday we were extremely loud and extremely emotional and hype, but I would say on like a level of bar of comparing that to things, the most rib cage shaking I've ever felt was obviously MLS Cup. Right. That's a whole city behind you, and I'm actually really looking forward to the Open Cup itself, because that should be somewhat similar to what we felt, to how we all felt as a city, as a club, getting behind our players and pushing them forward. And man, I'd really love I'd say I'd really love, but I'm going to be there. So waiting the day to see like the environment and just the whole atmosphere of that stadium is going to be phenomenal.
Dealer's choice, Kelly. Who do you want to talk about next? Justin Meram or Miles Robinson?
I have a very soft spot in my heart for both men. So let's go with Miles because he won man of the match. Why not? Phenomenal for performance. I mean, you guys were saying it. He's coming out of his Generation Adidas contract, I believe, at the end of this year, correct?
Yes.
If the front office does not see multiple offers, if they haven't already seen multiple offers for him, it's going to be a sort of free for all the end of the season. I hope we do everything in our power to keep him. He is a staple now for our club, and I mean, it feels like every game he just keeps getting better and better. And congrats on him to get man of the match last night. Would have been a little bit better if he would have topped it off with that goal at the beginning. But I mean, a foul is a foul, so that's understandable. But I mean, it feels like nothing surprises me anymore with his play and with his ability to really defend and hold that back line down. But each and every game, he does something, and it just sort of, you go, oh yeah, that's right. That's why we love you so much.
Primetime Miles Robinson.
Exactly.
The challenge is going to be...
I mean, he's one of the best in the league.
Yeah, I agree. And the challenge is going to be what the Red Bulls are going through right now when it comes to Aaron Long. When you develop talent that is playing at that level, you're going to attract attention. And we know that the European leagues, the top leagues anyway, are a higher level and it's a higher prestige. And depending on who's coming calling, and that's going to be a big part of this, you're going to have players go, and I think with Miguel Almiron, people expected it to happen. With a player like Miles, I'll be curious to see what the reaction is when offers start coming in. A lot of it's going to depend on what clubs are making the offers.
Yeah.
If it's a West Ham, like was reportedly in for Aaron Long, or a unnamed French club, not a PSG or a Marseille, probably more of a second tier, how's that going to go over? I'm really fascinated to see what the reaction will be if that type of move happens down the line.
And we all know that most players want and strive to go to Europe. There's still got to be a point with the front office and with an agent of a player to realize, yeah, maybe a bigger club wants me, like some of these Premier League teams who could definitely use Miles Robinson. But at the same point in time, you've got to look at it and think, is he going to get playing time? You want him to go to a club where he is going to excel and perform like he does here. And that's just sort of where it becomes tricky because, yeah, you don't want to give him away to something that's not going to benefit him in the long run, but you also don't want to give him away to a bigger club, which, in turn does help your club with the name of saying, oh, we sold Miguel to Newcastle and we sold Miles to insert club here. But there's still that point in time where like you want them to get starting minutes. You want them to get playing time. I mean, like Miguel is getting with Newcastle right now. So that's what you want. You want the players to go to a club that's known and that will benefit their career and progress them forward even more. But at the same time, you want them to have consistent time.
All right. Since you chose Miles Robinson first, let's get back into Justin Meram. And Jason mentions soccer IQ, and rightfully so, that, Justin Meram playing a position that he hasn't played and has been playing it and is still just cranking out result after result after result, being a part of Atlanta United, and the full-on embrace that the supporters have for Justin Meram just absolutely continues.
Yeah, there's no trash talking Justin Meram ever anymore from anybody, from any team. I feel like this club has fully embraced him, and what a time to do it. I mean, he's had sort of a rocky road at Columbus, and then he went to Orlando. Not rocky road entirely at Columbus. I mean, we obviously know some of his best years were there, but, he sort of went on a downward slope there, wasn't playing as much or playing at the level that he used to with Columbus, was traded to Orlando, had the whole Orlando stint, and then came back to Columbus trying to revive himself, and it obviously didn't go to plan with the new coach. And then comes here and has a reflowering of his career, and we're seeing the best of Justin Meram. And honestly, what a great thing for him to have at this point in time in his career, to have this sort of reflowering and this, I guess, reawakening from everybody else, realizing, oh yeah, Justin Meram is that good of a player. And he's always been this good. He's always been this sort of a high soccer IQ, been able to adapt to whatever is needed by the team. But I mean, Frank is just using him really well. And this team is in need of positions that he hasn't played, but what a player to be able to step into them, accept the role and the responsibility, and obviously excel like he's been doing. It's incredible to watch, and I don't think Justin fully anticipated the love being as high as it was, but I think that he is home here, and that makes me very happy.
All right, Kelly, final question. Make sure you're following the Kelly Francis on Twitter, and
Kelly
Instagram,
Francis,
and all of your social media outlets. How do you feel like this team is positioned now as an MLS Cup contender? Is it a favorite? Is it a possibility? Is there still work to do? Where do you feel like this team is in defending its title?
Oh, that's a good question. I can honestly say at the beginning of the year, I did not see us being able to defend our title. And that comes with like injury and with compression of schedule. And I think what has been most impressive to me is the moves that this front office has done and the backups they've brought in and the depth that we now have as a team. It's kind of crazy because we are as close to a first starting 11 as we could be right now. And we're still competitive against teams, and we've had a lot of injuries this season, which has sort of set us back, but in a way it's allowed the team itself to figure out how they solve those problems, and we've solved them. I mean, it's taken a little bit of time to do so, but do I think we have the ability to defend our title? Possibly. And when I say possibly, it depends really honestly how we end up going into the playoffs and what position we're at. And as far as the rank, are we third? Are we second in the East? And how does that play into, who we play against in the playoffs? And then now the playoff structure is different. So it's really, once you get into the playoffs, it's anyone's shot to get back to the MLS Cup. But I think we can. I think we can go back and defend it. The only thing I would say there is that we need to continue where we're at right now with having that more energetic, more creative style up front, but we also need to be a tad bit cleaner in the back. There have been a little bit of plays that have happened within this game and with the last couple ones where it's just a little bit sloppy defending, but I think honestly it's anyone's shot, but I mean we have as best a shot as anybody.
That's the challenge, is it's hard to find that balance. If you're going to commit more numbers forward, you're going to get exposed defensively. And I don't know if there's a way to have both completely. I don't think
you're telling me I can't have the best of both worlds, Jason.
No,
come on.
You can't. You can't. It's impossible. But I think the team's found a pretty good balance, and they do need to try to maintain that. It's not going to be easy, and especially these next three on the road in league play. We'll see how it goes. Kelly, thanks for taking the time this morning. We appreciate it.
Sorry I turned into robot the Kelly Francis earlier.
It was only a couple of times. It was all right.
At the robot Kelly Francis.
Well, that'll happen here soon enough.
All right. You guys have a good rest of the day.
Thanks, Kelly.
Be good, Kelly.
Bye.
Let's take a quick break. We'll get back into the Overreaction Monday timeline right after this.
A ranger station.
I'd like to report a bear hug.
Okay.
I put out my campfire and Smokey Bear hugged me.
So you drowned the fire, you stirred it, drowned it again, and felt that it was cold?
Uh-huh.
Yep, he's just letting you know you did good.
Bear hug from Smokey Bear. Status update.
I'm gonna let you go now. There are many ways to start a fire, but one sure way to put it out. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service, Ad Council, and your state forester.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus. And Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
This is what matters. This is beyond X's and O's. This is the difference mutual respect makes. This is what character looks like. This is what defines us in Georgia. This is sportsmanship. School sports. It's not the outcome that matters most, but the way the games are played. This message presented by the Georgia High School Association and the Georgia Athletic Directors Association.
If you've been hurt in a car wreck, contact my friend Steve Apolinski of Apolinski & Associates. He's been representing individuals for over 30 years throughout Georgia and Alabama. Email him at steve@aa-legal.com or call him 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
Welcome back. August 12th. Soccer Down here, Overreaction Monday. Getting into everything after an Atlanta 2-1 win over NYCFC. What else do we have on the timeline, John?
Michael Ruiz, and he's asking this of you. When does PT score next, and tell us why it wouldn't be a banger from outside the box? And then he follows that up with the googly, crazy-faced eyes with different sizes emoji. In all seriousness.
I was about to say, I have to go to the Magic 8 Ball and ask, and I think it will be in Orlando, and yes, it will be from 25 yards.
In all seriousness, PT's played so well, and I can't wait to see him score soon. We could use 3 to 5 goals from him down the stretch. Same from Barco, and Michael also wants to know starting 11 for America.
Starting 11 for Club America is a challenge because you just don't know how everybody is feeling just yet, and it might be a little bit of a Wednesday decision of, all right, can you give me 90? Can you give me 60? Can you give me 45? What are we going to do here? You have to manage it in the situation like a normal game because you only get 3 subs. There won't be extra time if it is level at the end of regulation. It will go straight to penalties in that case. But it's not a friendly where you have 7 subs. So that will affect the way you strategize a bit. I think you want to play Tito Villalba for sure. You want to get him minutes. Can he give you 45? If so, he starts. If he can play a half, he starts. And then you pull him at halftime and you bring in somebody else. If he can't give you 45, then he comes in the second half and you have that set up for a certain time period. Okay, that's one question. I don't think you'll have George Bello available. He played 69 minutes in Louisville yesterday. Maybe. I mean, it's possible, and if you could get him some time, it'd be great, but that might be a bit much. You might want to let him recover. Anybody else coming back from an injury that you're worried about minutes, that you have to get them minutes? I don't think so. Then you get to the next level of questions. You know, Joseph Martinez, how's he feeling? Is he going to be ready to go in terms of 90 or whatever? I think Joseph and Tito splitting the minutes up top might be a good way to do it, and it keeps things simple. Okay. What about Barco? How much do you want to push Barco in a game like this? I kind of feel like you'd like to have him off the bench in a game like this and not start. Pity Martinez, I think maybe you want one, if at least one in the starting lineup, if not both. I think it might be hard to get both because of the schedule. So you want one to start, and maybe you're splitting the difference between the two of them again. Maybe that's a way to do it. Then the rest of it, I mean, you got to look at a guy like Dion Pereira. You'd like to get him some minutes. You'd like to get Parkhurst some minutes here because you're going to need him down the stretch. maybe Florentine Pogba getting some minutes, maybe Jeff Larentowicz getting a start. You've got options in the central midfield to mix and match however you want there with Larentowicz, with Remedi, with Nagbe, with Hindman, with Mo Adams. Maybe you want to give him a game to get him better into the mix here. You're going to have to find that balance between your best 11 on the day and your best 11 for accomplishing what you want to accomplish as the year unfolds. And that's going to be a balancing act. I think you see a little bit of both, but what I would say right now is Tito plays, and if he can give you 45 minutes, he starts. That's the one I probably feel the strongest about. Beyond that, it's going to be a lot of how guys are feeling at the time.
Tafka, it's been great the past few matches, and I don't know if it's just me or what, but Joseph's role has migrated away from hold up, build up, and back to challenging the back line and movement for space within the box, without question for the better. And then he has a following paragraph.
Well, it's different, and you got to factor in who's playing around him. You know, when you're playing in a 4-3-3 and you don't have the players like Barco and Pitti right there with you, then you've got to drop it and fill that space and build up. You don't have to do that right now because Barco and Pitti are already in that space. So there's no point in dropping back. So then he's up higher in the formation. You've got the balance and the shape. That's the difference. It's not anything, I think, instruction-wise with Joseph and don't do this and do this. I don't think that has anything to do with it. It's the shape and it's the people around him. I mean, even when it wasn't Barco and Pitti there with Joseph and it was, I think, just Pitti and three central midfielders who were a little deeper, Joseph would drop in more. I think LAFC was an example of that. With Barco and Pitti together, they're already filling that space. So Joseph isn't going to come in and crowd it. He's going to go find space elsewhere.
This is not a critique of Joseph, but simply what he's been asked to do during the season. Also, it's simply incredible what he has accomplished. Got to wonder, I know he's happy here and I want him to stay, but someone is going to come calling.
That's a lot of stuff at the end of that, Tafka. No, there's no critique. Like there's not a right or a wrong. And that's something I hope people understand that. I hope people understand that Joseph dropping in and working in possession, he didn't do anything wrong. And Frank de Boer's not wrong for asking him to do it. Forwards do that. And now Joseph not dropping in, there's nothing wrong with that either because there's people in that space. So why would he crowd in there? Like, that's just smart soccer. So, like, there's nothing wrong with any of it either way. Like, he wasn't wrong for being involved in build-up play. He's not wrong for not being involved in build-up play. It's just the way the team works and the different personalities on the field together and the shape change a little bit too. So I hope everybody understands that because I understand where it's coming from because we've heard it on national media about, well, Joseph can't do that. He shouldn't do that. He should just be running off the back shoulder. No, Joseph is a better soccer player than just that. He can do anything you need him to do. And sometimes you need him to do different things. So I bristled at those comments. I thought they were very unfair. I thought they were honestly a little insulting to Joseph, to be perfectly honest, because he's not just that player. And if you know his history and you know where he's played in the past and you know what positions he's played in the past, he's done more than just be a guy who runs the channel between two center backs all day. He's not a robot. He's a soccer player. So when he can help you get out of trouble, he's going to help you get out of trouble. But when that space is being filled by players who are handling it, he doesn't need to drop in and help you get out of trouble. The whole second part of Tafka's tweet about, like, you know, you want him to stay and there's going to be people calling, that's just the business. I mean, anybody who plays well, you're going to have clubs coming in looking for him. It's the same things that happen to every club in Argentina and every club in this hemisphere, to be honest. I think people are looking at Mexico now more than they ever have. I think the difference in Mexico and Brazil is that the domestic money is quite large for domestic players. So it's a little bit harder to get those players to leave. It's not as much of the case in the U.S., and I think only now as we're starting to see more American players be considered for those types of situations. The Christian Pulisic big transfer is part of it, although he's not an MLS guy. It helps. Alphonso Davies coming through the league as a domestic Canadian developed player, going to Bayern Munich, that helps change the perception. Other players leaving the league that are not U.S. or Canadian players and doing well, like Miguel Almiron, that helps change the perception. So it's going to happen. Somebody's going to come in. I don't think he wants to leave, but if Real Madrid or Barcelona came in for Joseph Martinez and offered a suitable contract for him and a suitable transfer fee, well, yeah, then I think he would want to leave, and that's okay. That's just part of the business. It's going to happen. It just depends on what the money is and what club it is that comes calling.
Interesting question from Michael Head, complete with photographic evidence. He says, great match yesterday, complete performance. Hey, where'd our championship banner go? Shouldn't this be displayed at all events, especially our matches?
No, it's not going to be displayed at all events. That's been really clear from Major League Soccer. Now, I don't know why it wasn't there for the game, because it's supposed to be there for Atlanta United events. But that's been really clear from Mercedes-Benz Stadium from day one, is that it's a multi-purpose venue. You're not going to have permanent fixtures like that. So, like championship banners, retired numbers, you don't see the Falcons' retired numbers. They're not in there anywhere on a United game day. So, no, it's not going to be there for Falcons games. And it shouldn't be. Not the way that they've structured the venue, and it's been fair both ways. I don't know why it wasn't there yesterday. I didn't notice it. I wasn't looking for it. So that, I have no idea. But it's not going to be there for non-Atlanta United events. And the stadium and everybody's been very clear about that from day one.
ATLUTD fan number 1. FTB needs to be given proper credit. The media's been all over him from the start of this season, and now they're real quiet, and a hush has come over them. Good for us and him, but just give the man his due. I'm stoked going forward on us defending the cup. Hashtag on par reaction.
Yeah, it's so silly. I mean, the piece, I think it was at ESPN FC over the weekend about, or I think it might have been Friday, about Frank de Boer's turning the corner. No. And all of the just nonsense comments that have happened over the season. Just stop. People who either aren't following it day to day or don't know what they're talking about or are making guesses based off what they're seeing from the outside, or they see a headline and they run with it. Look, I've been frustrated with it all year. I think people have been extremely unfair when it comes to Frank de Boer. The more that he talks about the game, the more that I really enjoy hearing what he has to say and the way he sees the game. I really do. He's been treated unfairly. He was treated unfairly in Italy. He was treated unfairly in England. And I think he's been treated unfairly here because of that, which is sad because I will say it for the 545th time. Atlanta United should not be striving to follow the example set by Crystal Palace. Period.
No.
Nobody should be striving to follow the example set by Crystal Palace. Ever.
No.
It is hazardous to your health. Don't do
it. Yikes. Shiva, I was a little surprised as how many long balls Sean Johnson played, especially in the first half versus building out of the back. They did more the second half, and it looks like we won possession, especially in the first half.
Yeah, well, Atlanta dominated possession in the first half, that's for sure. Second half, NYC, and I think this was probably instruction from Dome Tehran at halftime, and maybe that was why it took them a while to get back on the field after the halftime interval, because they were a little late. This is something that happened to Real Salt Lake, too, and Dome Tehran talked about it, where the first half, I think, when a team put some pressure on them, they kind of gave up a little too easily and started playing direct, and that's not their game. Look, Maxi Morales isn't going to win anything in the air. Mitrita isn't going to win anything in the air. You're talking about two guys who are very small. Castellanos is going to fight and try to make things happen on a long ball, but he's not going to win a whole lot in the air. So why are you going to play long? There's no point. And Toronto talked about it against RSL. He said the same thing. First half, it felt like they were playing way too direct. They got out of who they were. Second half, they played better. It's the same here. When Atlanta put the high press on, and New York City couldn't play through it a couple times, then you start to concede and you say, all right, we'll just play direct and then defend. Well, that's not who NYC is. Second half, they were more of who they were, and they were much better for it. And that helped. And I think getting Hebert was probably a little tired from the game on Thursday against Houston. Those are the situations that do hurt you playing on short rest. Atlanta took advantage, but second half, NYC was much better. But Atlanta was still very, very good.
Five Stripe Daily. Wanted to ask y'all's impression on the subs. From the broadcast, Emerson looked really good. Larry looked a little at sea, wondering if Mo Adams maybe sees more time as a like-for-like for Remedi, like Larry, more starting than coming in late.
Well, you want to get him time. I mean, that's the thing, is that's what's hard about it. Like, on paper, does that sound good? Yeah, it sounds like an idea, but we haven't seen it. So, ideas and reality can be different. You've seen Jeff in that role, and you know what Jeff brings to the table, and I think there's a trust factor there. You just don't have it with Adams yet. So that's why Adams potentially playing on Wednesday in the Campiones Cup would be great, because you'd get to see, all right, does it work? Can we play him in that role and then make it work? But also, I don't know if you need to as much. It worked yesterday with Barco, Remedi, Nagbe as your three, air quotes, central midfielders. Barco played a little bit more and make it into a 3-4-3 as opposed to a true 3-5-2. Pitti dropping in makes it play a little differently as well. But Remedi and Nagbe were able to make it work against a very good midfield of NYC. Against some opponents who are going to pack the midfield a little bit more than NYC did, you're going to need that Adams or Lorenowitz defensive midfielder to help give your midfield a little more definition, little stronger defensively. I don't know how Adams blends in with this group in that role because we haven't seen it yet. Scouting report would make you think that it could work well. We need to see it play out. And maybe Wednesday becomes an opportunity to test that scenario, because you're not going to have a lot of other opportunities to test it until one day you might have to call upon it and you're flipping a coin as to whether it's going to work or not, because you don't know.
Follow-up from Five Stripe Daily, and he wants to know, is there a record for breaking records? Because Joseph has probably broken that as well.
Maybe. I don't know. There could be. Definitely that. Joseph has just been ridiculous. I mean, we could do a whole show.
You do it Joseph over there.
Yes.
Or Joseph down here.
Yes. And we would have plenty to say. I mean, he's just been that ridiculous.
And then Eichmann has a thought regarding Gressel contract, 3 words, : CBA.
Yep.
Although those are letters.
Yeah. It's going to factor in because you just don't know what options you're going to have just yet. You know the current CBA, and you know the current restrictions / opportunities that you might have in it. Beyond that, if you get more TAM money, cool, makes things easy. Get more GAM money or a larger salary cap, cool, makes things easy. I don't think you're thinking about a designated player slot when it comes to Julian Gressel, but you are thinking maybe, possibly, into that TAM region. And without knowing what you're going to have to work with, or if you're going to have TAM, or if it's going to be thrown into a cap, or who knows how it's going to look, it's kind of hard to prepare for it. And then what my fear is that, all right, if this drags on and you get close to the start of training camp, which puts you in the middle of the European transfer window, European transfer window is going to end at the end of January before your training camp is done, before you've started playing. I hope you know what your contract situations are going to be, and I hope you know what your CBA is going to be by then. Because otherwise it could be absolute chaos as you get close to the season in terms of renewing contracts, guys trying to force moves. It's going to be very difficult to manage the longer the CBA negotiation drags out.
Katie Weaver lets us know what she thought, and it's probably more what we're going to be talking about tomorrow. She says the past weekend's MLS games were a great advertisement for the league. Sizzling goals, tremendous atmospheres, exciting matches. # on par reaction Monday.
Yeah, it was a ridiculous weekend around Major League Soccer in the best of ways. There was some wild attacking play with lots of goals. There were some bad defensive mistakes. There was some brilliant plays, some stupid plays, some just chaos, some bad referee decisions, all kinds of stuff. And yeah, we'll get deeper into it tomorrow, but we're going to take a break, come back. There's some news and nuggets we'll touch on. We'll touch on a few things from the weekend as well around the league that relate to that, and we'll finish up with any questions you guys have. We'll get deeper into the chaotic weekend that was tomorrow. Let's take a break. Our final one. We'll be right back after this.
Looking for future leaders we can trust and believe in? Look no further than the high school student athletes right here in Georgia. High school sports teach young people how to be effective leaders. It begins by making their grades and being on time for practice. It includes learning to listen, following directions, accepting responsibility, being a good role model. And it's about respect for officials, opponents, the rules, and each other. The result? It transcends sports. It gives us hope for the future. High school sports. There's so much more than just a game. This message presented by the Georgia High School Association and the Georgia Athletic Directors Association.
Today's show is presented by Appolinsky & Associates, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience, supporters of Atlanta United, Faction, and Inter-Atlanta Youth Football Club. If you've been hurt in a wreck, contact Steve today at steve@aa-legal.com or call in 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Welcome back. Final segment. Soccer Down here for August 12th, Overreaction Monday. Last call to get your reactions in, over, under, on par, all of the above. Tweet at us at Soccer Down here. Get into a couple news and notes before we get to your final tweets. Last night, Real Salt Lake made the announcement that Mike Petke had been let go. Can't say it was a massive surprise. He was suspended for his actions in the League's Cup match. He was fined a record amount. He was, I believe, required to go to anger management courses, according to the club. Deloy Hansen, the owner of the club, was on video, filmed talking to fans about the consideration to firing him for what was said. And if you haven't read it, there have been multiple reports that I had heard the same thing before they came out, that the slur that we hear fans chant on goal kicks from time to time is the word that Mike Petke used when speaking to the referee on multiple occasions, and even to the point that it could have been written down on a piece of paper and then delivered to the referee's locker room after the match, after the referee had been berated with this slur. Completely and utterly unacceptable. I hate it for Mike Petke because I think he is a good person to have in this league, but not if these things happen. There's no place for it. Just none. And it didn't even feel like it was just a line being crossed. It was too far than that, because it's not the first time that Mike Petke's had angry line crossing reactions. It is the first time we've heard the language used in those angry line crossing reactions to things with referees. All of that combined, I think RSL did what they had to do. I don't think they had a choice. And we'll see what happens next. And we'll see what happens next for Mike Petke. I don't know if any MLS team is going to be willing to take a chance on him right now. And they probably shouldn't. I think he's going to have to rehabilitate his career in a lot of different ways. And that's something that, again, I hope that he can do. I agree with Brian Dunseth. And if you haven't seen Brian's statement on Twitter, Brian did a lot of podcasts with Mike Petke during their time at RSL and got to know him very well. And he started a statement with saying, to be clear, I consider Mike Petke a friend. And he gave his opinion on what happened and everything that happened. And Brian comes from a very personal place with this, with his family. And they've talked about it on podcasts. And I completely agree with, what Brian said about the whole situation. But I don't think there's an MLS team that can take the chance on hiring Mike Petke right now. I just don't think it's possible. So how does he rehabilitate his career? I don't know. And I think time is going to be a big part of that. But RSL did what they had to in the situation in my book. And I want to see where they go from here. I mean, we've talked about it this season just on the field before this happened. Mike Petke had to kind of show improvement this season with this squad to stay off of the hot seat. Well, he lit the seat on fire with the way he handled the Leagues Cup situation, that's for sure. But I don't know if his performances on the field had gotten him too far away from that hot seat to begin with. So now what does RSL do? They've got to get better on the field. They've got to have better performances in general. And it's going to be a interesting hire because you have a lot of young talent, and you have a lot of young talent coming through that club. It's a very attractive job. I want to see who they go get because it's a job that I don't know if we were expecting to become available. We definitely weren't expecting it right now. It was iffy on if it would become available at the end of the year. Now, that's one of the prime jobs in the league right now that's available. I'll be really curious to see where they go.
Yeah, and I'm co-signing everything you said when it comes to Petke. You can't have it. And RSL took the time with the suspension, looked at everything, and made a decision that they had to make. Now you have to figure out what you're going to do. You have the interim coach for the foreseeable future. How does the team respond in a very crazy West, which is very jam-packed right now? And what do you do going forward? So it's two tracks that you have to take, but right now you just have to focus on what's going on in front of you in a very, very crowded Western Conference and, get it together to make sure that you're north of the playoff bar by the time you're done.
And speaking of the slur that Petke reportedly used with the referee and the slur that we heard during the Gold Cup and we have heard during Leagues Cup matches, I will be interested to see Wednesday if that pops up. It's not something that has been a regular staple of Atlanta United matches. It happened at Game 1. I've heard it a couple of times since, and no, I'm not catching everything that comes out of the stands during a match, but it has not been anything on a regular basis. And I think the supporters groups have done a great job of managing that. Well, this is going to be a game with, I think, a large support for the opposition at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, and this has been a battle in the Mexican soccer culture of dealing with this and eradicating it. And I want to see how this goes down on Wednesday. I want to see if it becomes an issue, if it becomes a talking point. It could. It very well could. And how it gets handled will be very interesting, I think. Other news and rumors around the league. I wanted to get into a couple things before we finish up on the timeline. Rumors from Fox Deportes contributors that Edinson Cavani will be headed to Inter Miami next summer. This is he started the season at PSG. I believe he's under contract through the end of the year, or he would be breaking his contract or getting sold or whatever. The contributor wasn't exactly 100% clear, but said that Cavani to Inter Miami is going to happen. That's a large deal. That's a pretty big move for Inter Miami. I could see it. I could see that happen. I don't know what kind of salary, what kind of transfer, if that comes into it. I don't know what those numbers look like. But it's the type of move that you would think Inter Miami would be associated with.
Yeah, you want to make a splash in your market? Cavani's definitely a way to do it. I want to see the particulars once we go forward from this initial round of the release of the name and everything. And this is who we're looking at, but I want to see the next stages here. And we've seen Inter Miami sign a couple of very young, talented players. Now you're possibly bringing in Cavani, and they ain't messing around. And that's a big name to bring in out of the jump.
Other news and nuggets, John Thorrington of LAFC talked to the media. Brian Rodriguez was introduced yesterday at Bank of California Stadium. The comments he made that grabbed my attention, talking about going back to Uruguay, going back to Peñarol, where they signed Diego Rossi from, and going originally he opens up the original PowerPoint display to try to woo Diego Rossi, and it was all this is what the stadium will look like. This is a model of how it will be. This is what we think will happen. Now you're going back to the same club a couple years later and saying, well, this is what is happening. And he said, it's eye-opening to people. I do think MLS has grown, and it's by no means just us, but I am selling LAFC to people, and I think clubs that have come before us and clubs that are continuing to develop, the perception of MLS globally now is very, very different, where now there are players with big European clubs after them that are choosing to come here. And Brian Rodriguez is one of those. Other clubs, other players coming to MLS clubs will also make that decision. It's going to happen more and more. It's happening for young South American players who think that coming here is a better stepping stone than going straight to Europe and maybe getting lost in the shuffle at a big club and not getting that opportunity. Last night, LAFC gets the win over Red Bulls. We'll get deeper into it tomorrow. But Carlos Vela tied Sebastian Giovinco's record of combined goals and assists in a season. There's still a lot of games left. That record's going to be Vela's. Is he going to have the Golden Boot? Right now he has a lead on Joseph. Is he going to break Joseph's record from last year? He's on pace to do it. We will see. DC United and all the things that happened last week around DC United. Stephen Goff of the Washington Post dropped another slight bombshell after he had talked about the Mesut Ozil stuff. Said that DC's still talking about it, but it's probably like a 25% chance of happening. They also kicked the tires on a player who's out of contract, Daniel Sturridge. Sturridge is going to end up somewhere, I think. I think he's healthy. I think he's probably going to have to figure out a salary that works. Is he going to end up in MLS? Well, DC were more worried about his fitness than the contract side of it, according to Stephen Goff. Now, they went and got Ola Kamara instead, so they're good. But could anybody else go after Daniel Sturridge? Interesting where he lands. And there's other guys like him, Mario Balotelli. There's some players out of contract who are not in that 34, 35-year-old range. There's some guys in their late 20s who are out of contract, early 30s, that still have years to give. If it's not MLS, where do they end up? It's going to be a fascinating conversation to follow. A number that jumped out to me after the Galaxy lost in D.C. last night. L.A. was 7-1-1 in their first 9 games. They're 5-10 in their last 15. See how Guillermo Barros Escalotto tries to right that ship. And, John, what do you think about this name? USL League One team in Omaha has trademarked the name Union Omaha.
Reminds me too much of Mutual of Omaha.
That's exactly what I thought, too.
And it's just like, nah, you can do better.
I mean, when I think you're kind of in a no-win situation with some of these because
No
if
doubt.
you go the Omaha Tigers or Omaha whatever.
The Omaha Beef.
No, that's stupid. If you go Omaha normal nickname, well, people will be like, well, that doesn't sound like a soccer team. It needs to be authentic to a soccer team. Well, if you go Omaha City, then we have the 20th City. Or if you go Omaha United, then we have the 20th United. And if you go like a little more different, like an Athletic Omaha, then you get really close to a Mutual of Omaha. You're in a no-win. Everybody's going to be able to find something to pick at. For me, I want to see the branding associated with it. I'm not completely and utterly against it, but how do you sell it to me? That's the important part, because the name is just the name. I don't think the name works by itself no matter what it is. It's how you sell it. Forward Madison sounds goofy as a name because there's not another I don't think there's many anyway. There's not another forward whatever club in the United States.
Right.
I think that's a fair thing to say. But they've sold it in a really cool and creative way, and they've made it work. If you have a name that you don't brand well, it can be the greatest name in a focus group, but if you don't brand it well, then it's not going to work.
Right.
So how do they brand Union Omaha? That's the bigger question for me.
Yeah, when I saw Union Omaha, I'm like, oh, Mutual. Yeah, no. I want to see it, but
Nick Alifi is 100% wrong trying to say that Omaha Beef is a perfectly valid name. It was an arena football team name. That's not valid.
Correct.
Yeah, I had a fantasy football team named the Omaha Beef, so it's invalid.
I want to see how this is branded. It's kind of clunky. I know what you're thinking, but I want to see where you go.
What do we have on the Twitters as we finish up?
A lot.
Oh, boy. Here we go.
Joe Bost with an on-par question using the hashtag. With Bellows' imminent return, does FDB try the 4-3-3 or stick to the 3-5-2? If he stays 3-5-2, does Bello go to left wing back and leave out Miram? Honestly, tough call.
Yeah, that's the problem. It's what we've talked about, that I don't think anybody else has picked up on the challenges that come into play. I think the decision is going to be how well is the team playing and how well can they play with Bello. Can they play better with Bello? Or are you good enough with Miram as a left wing back? I think having Bello opens up the door to play a 4-3-3 in the right situations. And that's the important part, because there's games where you're going to need to turn to it or start with it. Having Bello opens up that door. Not having him means that door, you don't have that door. You don't have that door, period. You went to the 3-5-2 because you didn't have a left back. You couldn't play a four-man back line. It was not going to happen effectively. You could have played Parkhurst as a left back, and we've seen that. It hasn't really worked that great. So you're going to be limited in that situation. You can do it against certain opponents. You can't do it against everybody. Without Bello at left back, you were going to have problems. So Breck Shea's injury forced you to 3-5-2. It's worked great. You would be reluctant to change it. But you have a possibility now that you didn't have before. And that's going to be the interesting dilemma. I think the easiest thing is to stay in the 3-5-2, but Bello plays some left wing back early on to get back into the flow. That gives him the ability to go forward. It also gives you the ability to comfortably defend deeper a little bit more when you need to, and you will. You're going to have times where you need to do that. But then how do you keep Justin Miram and his strong contributions in the mix? It's going to be very difficult. The 4-3-3 allows you to play more of your attacking players, but you lose a little bit of that balance the other way. That's the balance, and that's the tightrope that Frank DeBoer walks.
Chris Ashley, contributor to the Greenville Triumph Weekly show that we have here on the network, and GVLsoccer.com and YTSS, that soccer show up in Greenville, has a point in regard to Union Omaha. He says that he just needs Omaha Steaks to be the kit sponsor for it. Maybe they just call themselves Omaha Steaks.
Well, I mean, I don't know if you want to be the Steaks, but Omaha Steaks is a kit sponsor? Yes. That's great. Because you'll sell a ton. Then you can do some kind of branding with it, and you have your Omaha whatevers or Union Omahas or Omaha Beef or whatever you want to call it, and you have those kits in the Omaha Steaks catalog. Boom.
Oh,
branding.
Boom. See, and then you could sit there and say, yeah, their play was a little raw. Their play was well done. Their play was medium rare.
No. That's horrendous.
That's what happens if Omaha Steaks is your kit sponsor. You know that the steaks comparisons will continue.
That's awful.
Ad infinitum, ad nauseum.
Awful.
Eichmann appreciated the missed red on LGP for Dog So yesterday. Hashtag Overreaction Monday.
I don't think they missed it. It's the reason why I don't think that's Dog So is it's 45 yards from goal. It's not an obvious goal-scoring opportunity, and there is a defender who, with that much space, and I believe the defender was Miles Robinson, he can make that a less obvious goal-scoring opportunity. If it had been closer to goal, if it was 25 yards in, yep, I agree. But it was too far out for me to be a Dog So. And with Robinson in the vicinity, I think Robinson's going to close that down. So I thought it was the correct call.
Here's your question.
Hold on, sorry. One thing about Dog So is the distance from goal does factor into the decision about is it Dog So or is it not Dog So. So keep that in mind. It's not just last man back, no matter where, then it's a Dog So.
Here's your question, the other thinking cap question for you today, since we had the DP question in the first hour. From at Mr. Fantastic 08. Jason, if you were commissioner of MLS,
that's scary.
What key rule changes would you apply and remove to push the league forward and allow clubs to be more ambitious, since the goal is to be a top league by 2026? Thinking emoji, 2 of them follow.
Oh, okay. We're going to finish with this because this might make my brain melt. Off the top of my head, I would do the designated player thing that we've talked about. I would make them a certain number of slots that are available within the league. You can acquire more, but you're still dealing with a cap. Okay, so yes, if you want to acquire, let's say, you go up to 4, right? So you have 4 slots. Every team has 4 slots. Every team has the ability to trade slots. You have a set number of designated players in the league because of this, just like international slots are. Okay? You want to go get 2 more designated player slots? Yeah, that's cool. But then you got to make that fit under your cap. So what you're probably going to end up having is 6 designated players, less TAM players, because you're not going to be able to use them because you're not going to have the cap room. And you're going to have a lot of guys on minimum deals, or you're going to pull guys out of the draft, or you're going to have homegrown players in. You might be able to make that work, but you got to figure that out. I would do that. That's one. I really do like the idea of targeted allocation money because it makes teams spend it in a very specific way. I don't know if the league is quite ready to just dump allocation money into the cap and say, all right, here is your cap. It is general allocation money plus targeted allocation money plus the existing salary cap plus whatever we're raising it to. I'm not 100% sure that it's ready for that. I would want to study it. I kind of lean to doing that. I kind of lean to saying, okay, whatever X amount of general allocation money that is available each year, cool. Bump your cap up by that. Targeted allocation money, bump your cap up by that. And then whatever else you're adding to it, because you need to add to it. Done. All right. So that simplifies things. I would... I'm thinking. So designated player slot. You can't do anything really with international slots. I wouldn't add more. You can't get rid of them. There's things when it comes into labor law that make that complicated. So I'm okay with international slots the way they are. I would allow, if you're going to make the cap easier in terms of not having buckets of money, essentially in the cap, with a GAM, a TAM, and a cap, and it's all one. I would then give teams the opportunity to basically use a Larry Bird rule kind of situation to re-sign players, to go over the cap to re-sign your own players. That, to me, seems like a good way to incentivize teams to develop talent, develop players, invest in players in their community, invest in them from a marketing perspective, and then try to keep them. So a Bird rule type of cap situation, yes, I would add that. I would also add an even stronger rule in that way to re-sign homegrown players. And however that looks, that part, being a capologist is way beyond me. Way beyond me.
It's why you hire them.
Yes, but this is what I would tell them to do, is create this. All right, you have a Bird level exception, or whatever we're going to call it, whoever we're going to give that name to in MLS. And then
David
you have
Beckham.
a homegrown. No, it's not Beckham, because you're not signing Beckham to that now. Beckham's already got a rule. Whatever player you're going to re-sign for that, it might be Miles Robinson, it might be Julian Gressel, who knows? Whatever, it doesn't matter.
Joseph exception.
It doesn't matter. It's a exception to re-signing a regular player above the cap. Then there is an even greater exception to signing a homegrown player above the cap. I hope that makes sense. I want to incentivize clubs to invest in their players and develop their players and keep their players if they can, if they want to. What else? Those are the main ones. I mean, I know people are going to zero in on, well, the league shouldn't get anything out of a transfer fee. Well, technically, the league pays the salaries that are under the cap. So I get why you have these situations with the league taking a cut of transfer fees. I would maybe find a way to lessen that or limit it to the amount that's been paid out or cap hits or whatever. I think that's possible. So that simplification stuff is not the big sexy things that are going to change the league. For me, it's adding another designated player slot. And, hey, if you wanted to go above and beyond and add one more specific young designated player slot, I'm not against it. I would love to get all the allocation money into the cap and simplify that, but then make it more complicated to allow teams to go above the cap to re-sign their own players. Those are the things that jump out to me when we talk about this on a regular basis.
There you go.
And my brain's melted.
Okay, so we figured. Are we teasing programming later today?
Yes, well, of course we are, because we are doing programming from later today at the Brewhouse Cafe in Little 5 Points. Soccer over there live, 7 to 9 p.m., our first show from the Brewhouse. Come out and join us if you can. If not, you can listen on the Soccer Down Here app, on soccerdownhere.net, on Spreaker. Ask questions. It's a free-for-all kind of show. Look, we'll talk some Atlanta United. We'll talk MLS. We'll talk the Premier League starting up this weekend. We'll talk what's going on in Europe. Neymar having some very horrible things chanted at him from his own club's fans. Yeah, that happened. We'll talk about all the possible moves that could happen during the rest of this transfer window around Europe, because there will be moves. There will be things. Things will happen. We'll talk about it. It's a free-for-all kind of show. We're hanging out at the pub talking soccer and football and footy and calcio and all those things all at one time. So come out and join us. If not, listen, contribute, join the conversation on Twitter at Soccer Down Here and SOC, S-O-C, over there. And we will be back with you at 7 o'clock tonight.
And we do have a lot more stuff in the queue, but we also have 4 more days worth of programming.
Well, yes, we have lots of things this week. It's going to be a busy week with Campeones Cup on Wednesday. We will get to all of this stuff as we go. If we missed anything today, please tweet it at us. We'll get into some of it tonight. We'll get into more of it later this week. If you missed some stuff from the weekend, We had a fun Soccer Over There special previewing the Premier League on Friday. I think most of our predictions are still valid after week 1. I think we're good. I mean, nobody's in crisis like Tottenham Hotspur was 45 minutes into their game, according to the radio broadcast. It was crisis at Tottenham when they were
crisis
losing
after the first 45 minutes of the season.
And it's crisis for Frank Lampard, and it was crisis for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, but maybe not anymore.
And if you haven't seen the rant from the one Chelsea fan that has been making the rounds, about how
just don't waste your
Frank
time.
Lampard.
Like what? I mean, Frank Lampard should be fired?
Pretty much 2.5 minutes of that.
Yeah, don't be that.
It was talking about like Thanos coming and all this kind of stuff. I mean, there were references that were more obscure than I would do, and the guy was building his case and making a lot of references, and it's making the rounds. So if you've got 2.5 minutes, take a peek at it. But yeah, dude was slinging
strong
fire.
Stomach for stupidity. Take a look.
Straight
at it.
fire. If you've got 2.5 minutes.
Yeah, straight fire. Straight backfiring lawnmower engines. Just stupid nonsense. Yes, blow up the season after 90 minutes. That's the way to build a club. Yeah, blow up the season after 90 minutes. Yeah.
Yes.
Anyway,
sure. Why not?
Yelling loudly and being passionate doesn't mean you're right about soccer opinions. There are a multitude of soccer opinions, and everybody has them, and that's great. But
that was one of them.
Well, that's a wrong one, and that's just sad because that's why Chelsea's in the spot that they are. They ran off a manager in Maurizio Sarri that every club in Italy was fighting over themselves to get to because he didn't know what he was doing at Chelsea. Stupid. Don't be stupid. Don't be that guy. Or
don't be Chelsea. Don't be Crystal Palace.
Well, no, there's plenty of great things about Chelsea. Just don't overreact to things all the time. That's all. It's one game. It was 45 minutes for Tottenham, and it was crisis. And that was not coming from Tottenham fans. So I don't know. We'll talk about crises. We'll talk about all these things. Soccer Over There tonight, 7 to 9. I think our Premier League preview holds up. Go check that out. Sean Wright Phillips of Manchester City and Chelsea and the England national team joined us. Very cool to talk to Sean. Saturday, we had a very cool roundtable about Atlanta soccer history with legends of the Atlanta Chiefs and the Atlanta Apollos and the Data Graphic Soccer Club. Jeff Solom, Nick Papadakis, Alan Hamlin, John Cocking all joined us. About 45, 50 minutes. Really fun conversation. That's on the app. That's on the website as well. Go check that out if you didn't get a chance to hear it. Was really happy to do that with our friends at Marvel Soccer up in Alpharetta. They will be part of the ATL Soccer Con. We will be there as well with another panel discussion, topic TBD. But that's going to be a fun thing coming up in the next month. And we got a lot of stuff to talk about all week long. So we're going to take a break for a few hours. We'll be back at the Brew House tonight at 7 o'clock. Hope to see you guys there, or hope to see you guys there on Twitter joining the conversation with us. Thanks, everybody. Mucho plata, y'all.
Mucho plata.